call this February 7th work session of the Oconee County Board of Education to order. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Mr. Burgess,
Second.
second. Mr. Bagley, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Next, we have our Superintendents Report.
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Grant.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity. Want to begin by letting the board know that it is National School Counselors Week, and so we'll be celebrating our school counselors all week, and just want to thank them for the excellent work that they do year-round, not just this week, but at all times. And a lot of the work is done that is not seen, assisting students on a regular basis. So we appreciate the board's support in recent years to add additional counselors and your continued support of our counselors, and appreciate the outstanding work that they're doing. It's also CTAE month, and so we want to thank our CTAE staff and the outstanding programs that they provide to our students. We just had an opportunity, I believe, to have our transition or FYI nights at our high schools for rising ninth graders. And I know several CTA programs were available for review during that night as well. And then just this weekend, both our robotics teams at North and Oconee County High School made it to advance to the state competition. So lots of great things going on in our CTA programs, both in the classroom and in our clubs. I want to thank the board for the opportunity for us to have the groundbreaking for Dove Creek Middle School. That was an exciting day, and I know that Brock and his team and Anissa and everyone that worked very hard to make that a special day. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from our community about getting that started and the good work that's going to take place. Also, not to be outdone, I understand that Oconee Primary School had a ribbon cutting of their own for their Little Chief Nature Trail. And so I think that got perhaps as much traction as your ribbon cutting did on social media, but a great thing, and I've actually had a chance to go out there. Very nicely done, very entryway from the playground, and so I encourage you to take a look at that when you have an opportunity. We recently had our spelling bee, and Ibram Imam was our winner for the district from Oconee County Middle School. I believe he's won several years in a row. I think I was out in the second round, just being in the back trying to keep up, but very talented students, did a wonderful job there. I want to thank the board members that were able to attend our Star Breakfast, where we celebrate our students that had the highest SAT scores from around the district. And as for those who were not able to attend, we had quite a unique situation with a three-way tie at North. Students from Oconee, I believe Athens Academy, and Westminster all had the same score, which I believe was a 1560, is what I understand. So very close to a perfect score, great talented students. And so all those students get to move forward and attempt to represent our district at the next level. And I see Mr. Eddie adding his score with Mr. Toole's score.
We still didn't make it.
Still did not get there. But you guys enabling the opportunities for students today. So we did have a student, Connor Logan from North, that scored a perfect 36 on the ACT. And so I'm sure we'll be seeing Connor and these other students to continue to celebrate them when the time is right. Hopefully you've seen the press release on student team from North that won the NASA contest. And their proposed experiment will be taken up in space. And I encourage you to read the layman's article that we wrote, not necessarily the proposal they submitted. But some wonderful things there, and certainly some great opportunities for our students. A few other things going on. Miss Erin Just from Oconee County High School was named the Georgia Association of Teachers of Family and Consumer Science Teacher of the Year. Just want to congratulate Miss Just. Malcolm Bridge Elementary School. Ms. Haygood, did you sing with the with the chorus?
That I did not. No, we
Okay,
didn't want to hear
all right.
But they did an outstanding job.
Yeah, the chorus at Malcolm Bridge Elementary School sang the national anthem at the UGA Gym Dog event.
They did an excellent job. I was there.
There you go. And Ryan over here in the corner, Ryan White, our Director of Technology, was recently selected as State Superintendent's 21st Century Learning Technology Task Force. So got leaders and students doing wonderful things across the district. If that's not enough and you have some spare time, we have winter sports that are continuing. Swimming championships were just held recently, lots of state champions there from both sides of our county. Basketball is prepping for the region tournament. Some great games are going to take place this week. I believe number 5 versus number 9 over at North Oconee, and some great games that OC is going to be playing as well. Wrestling sending several athletes advancing to the state tournament. Also, we had a few students signed for National Signing Day to take their talents on to the next level. And we poked at Mr. Eddy, but we'll celebrate Mr. Eddy's school as well. Malcolm Bridge Middle School, both boys and girls won the region basketball championship at the middle school level. So lots of great things going on in our school system, many more that we could celebrate, but I'll stop there unless there are questions.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Next, we have presentations and discussion. Dr. Susan Stanton.
All right, good evening. The February Teaching and Learning Report contains 1 item of information and 2 action items for the February 14th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is an update on the FY22 Special Education Local Education Agency District Determination. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, requires the Georgia DOE to review the data of each LEA to evaluate our performance in meeting the requirements and purposes of IDEA. After they review the data, they have to make a determination on whether we are meets requirements, a needs assistance, or needs intervention. I am pleased to report that the division has completed a review of the data from the 2021 school year and has made the determination that OCS meets requirements. I want to commend Suzanne Korngold for her leadership in this area. The first action item for the February 14th Board of Education meeting is new servers. Oconee County Schools posted a request for proposal for new servers on December 15th, 2021 and closed on January 19th, 2022. The new servers will allow for increased performance and capacity as our student population and demand for technical services continues to grow. The superintendent's recommendation is for the Board of Education to approve purchasing the new servers at the February 14th, 2022 meeting from Dell. The total is $34,966.80. Dell is the low bidder. These will be paid for using ESSER funds. The second action item for the February 14th Board of Education meeting is for network cabling. This was approved by the board at the January meeting. However, there was an error in the funding code listed, so we are presenting this item again for approval. The January report indicated that this would be funded with general fund and E-rate funds. The good news is that this project does qualify for ELOST and will be funded with ELOST and E-rate funds. As a reminder, Oconee County Schools posted a request for proposal for network cabling for Dove Creek Middle School on November 16, 2021 and closed on December 16, 2021. This network cabling will provide network access for the internet, intercoms, security cameras, and phones. The superintendent's recommendation is for the Board of Education to approve purchasing cabling and installation from Transcend at the February 14, 2022 Board of Education regular session based on the required E-rate rubric for $164,270. Transcend is the low bidder that met all specifications. These will be paid for using ELOST and E-rate funds. And if that concludes my report, unless there are questions.
Susan, so the cabling that you're talking about here, that's all part of Dove Creek and connecting Dove Creek to the internet?
It's the internal cabling within
Yeah.
the school. Yes, sir.
Okay. But this is not for district wide or anything, this is all just for that project?
That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have operations. Mr. Brock Toole.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. The Oconee County Schools Operation Division February Board of Education report contains 3 items of information and 0 action items for the February 14th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is our energy report. I'm happy to say the December energy report shows a decrease in usage over November. And Mr. Breidenbach and his maintenance team have worked diligently for us to achieve the lowest December kilowatt hour usage on record. Way to go, Steve. Our second item of information is our lead custodian meeting. The January lead custodian meeting was held Thursday, January 13th, and was hosted by the team at Collin Ferry Elementary School. Our custodial teams are to be commended for the rigorous work ensuring that our schools are clean for health. And with that, I want to turn it over to Fred Ricketson, our Director of Facilities, for our construction update.
Good evening. I'm excited to report we've got a great weather forecast for the week, and we are going to take advantage of it. Collin Ferry continues to move forward. We're about 25% complete with brickwork. They're sending a second crew of masons this week because of the good weather. As soon as the brickwork is finished, we can start putting windows in, start getting the building conditioned, start finishing it inside out. So we're moving along really well at Collin Ferry. High Shoals, we've been kind of dead in the water for about 4 weeks now, waiting on the steel package to arrive. We got good news that it's coming at the end of this month, so we'll wait a little before we expected it. And so we're having a pre-steel conference Wednesday, to get those guys ready to start installing the steel and moving forward on that project. Dove Creek Middle, again, the good weather this week, we're going to take advantage of it. They're continuing to do grubbing. They've got their erosion control measures in place, and are going to begin grading work very soon. Lastly, Oconee County primary renovation. We did post an RFP for phase 1 renovations to Oconee County Primary School last Thursday. Proposals will be due on Thursday, March the 3rd. Phase 2 of the project, which will include modification work to Oconee County Primary School, Oconee County Elementary School, and Oconee County High School, will be advertised later this year. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Fred, on the steel package, is that bumping back the timeline any? Are we still on time at High Shoals?
We still feel pretty confident with the time schedule because we were able to order all of our materials in time. Actually, we were able to get to the point we are now a little ahead of schedule. That's the reason for the break. So right now we still feel pretty good about it for a late June, early July completion. Yes, sir.
On the 2 RFPs, I think you just had one question was what's the distinction between the 2 levels of RFPs? I think you answered that. The question was the RFP for the elementary school. Does that mean that what we'll be doing is we'll be doing all the work that was initially planned for the primary school now, and that the elementary school will come later when that RFP is ready to go out?
Yes, sir. I think the key is in this DOE terminology is renovation versus modification, and in DOE terminology, renovation is paint, flooring, interior work. Modification tends to be actual changes to the buildings or upgrades to the building, such as HVAC, roofing, and similar major items like that. So, does that answer your question?
Remind me then which one is which and why is one going first and one's coming second?
Okay, the primary school is going first because the primary school renovations is going first because the work is it's pretty straightforward with readily available materials, whereas the modifications, the materials are still kind of difficult to get in a timely manner. So what we want to do is bid the phase 2, the modification work, where they have plenty of advance time to acquire materials So that's on the ground waiting when school lets out for the summer of 23.
Okay. So that project will still go on, it's just gonna be delayed by 6 to 12 months until the materials can be more readily made.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Human Resources, Dr. Brooke Whitmire.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. With all the exciting talk about Dove Creek Middle School, it won't be long before we will need to talk about redistricting for Dove Creek Middle School. In fact, the information item that I have tonight will become an action item for you next week, and that is the proposal for the timetable for redistricting for Dove Creek Middle. If you vote to approve this timetable next week, board members, what will happen at that point is over the next half year or so or plus, I'll convene a cross-section of district leaders to examine potential attendance lines over that time. In September next year, it'll be here before we know it. I'll be back in front of you to present a proposal for those attendance lines for your consideration. You will then, very similar to the last time we went through this process for Dove Creek Elementary, you will then have 2 months to consider those proposed attendance lines, to ask questions, to ask for changes to them, to receive input from the community, and then ultimately the final draft of proposed attendance lines will be presented to you in November the 7th to be exact, at the work session. You will then vote the next week, and if you approve, those will become the new attendance lines for redistricting. So again, tonight the timetable is just presented to you for your consideration to be voted on next week.
Any questions?
So this timeline is prepared for a redistricting that would take effect
When Dove Creek Middle School opens, so for the 2023
August 23.
Correct.
When school starts, then these new lines that are part of this process would come effective.
That's exactly right.
From your perspective, having done this a few times, especially last time, can you describe how you think this process may be different, or the impact of this process will be different than the one we went through a few years ago?
Certainly, there's some conjecture here, but I would tell you that the primary objective, obviously, is to populate Dove Creek Middle School. But beyond that, it could certainly touch other schools as well, as we look to balance staffing and also, of course, student attendance at those schools, taking into consideration future growth as best we can understand it. And of course, with the middle school being a third middle school, that has an impact that will reach other schools as well. So I would tell you that while its primary objective is the middle school, anything is on the table in terms of K-12 schools across the district, to be perfectly frank.
Would it be a fair statement to say that the impact of adding a third middle school on top of the growth that we've experienced since the last time we redrew the lines could likely mean that this redistricting could, in some form or fashion, affect almost every school?
I think that's a fair
in the
assessment.
system.
I think that would be a fair possibility.
Okay, so probably a more far-reaching redistricting in terms of its impact than the one we went through a few years ago.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Next is Student Services, Dr. Dallas LaDove. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The Student Services Report contains 5 items of information and 2 action items for the February 14th Board of Education meeting. The first item of information is our COVID-19 update. As you know, we are still working very closely with the Georgia Department of Public Health. They've reported that the rolling average in Oconee County as of 3 o'clock this afternoon is 22.7. The vaccine rate is 63%. Fully vaccinated or with 2 doses, 66% with at least 1 dose, and 29% with 3 doses, and that's the population as a whole inside of Oconee County. The 5 to 9-year-old age range vaccination rate is 21.6, 10 to 14 is 41.2, and 15 to 19 is 58.8. The second item of information is school choice. As you know, our school choice window closed on January 21st. We have approved 84 applications to go to a school outside of a student's attendance zone and denied 7 due to those applications being for schools that don't have available space, which were Malcolm Bridge Middle and North Oconee High School this year. The third item of information is our school nutrition participation. Happy to report that our breakfast has increased 4.2% over last January, and lunch 9.1% over last January. The fourth item of information is school nutrition wellness regulation. We've updated regulation EEER to reflect the current practices of our wellness program. The fifth item of information is our school nutrition website. I'd like to commend Caitlin Brand, our Director of School Nutrition, who has created a website that contains all of our information for our school nutrition program. I'm gonna try to get to where I can demonstrate a couple of neat things on here for you.
Board members, while Dallas is doing that, just a point of reference, the wellness program regulation does not require board action, but we do bring that to you just as an informational being. It's been updated to reflect practices.
So our school nutrition website contains information such as our health inspection scores, as well as menus. So the page I'm demonstrating for you tonight is an example of our menu. This is our middle school lunch menu for February. So if I go to the 7th and hover over there, it's going to give me the nutrition information for the items on the menu. I can also go up here for special meal accommodations. If I have a dietary restriction or an allergy as a parent, I can go and I can click on the particular allergen, and it's going to redline for me everything that contains that allergen. So as a parent, I can go ahead and see what is available for my student to eat in the lunchroom on any given day, just from a quick glance at our website. Yes, sir.
The manager's choice catfish and hush puppies, is that Mr. Eddie or Mr. Carter?
I'm not sure. We got to defer to them on that. Mr. Burgess. I'm sure they had a lot of input into that. We've got 2 action items, both of field trips. The first action item is a Oconee County High School band field trip to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where the winter guard will compete in regional finals at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. The second is a North Oconee High School field trip for the math team to go to Clemson University and compete in the calculus competition. The superintendent's recommendation is to approve both trips as presented. And that concludes the student services report, unless there's any questions.
Any questions?
I have a question on the school choice. Was that number pretty much in line with what we've seen in the past of requests?
It was. Typically we're in 60 to 80 range. So and several of those were requests to stay at the current school, anticipating a move as well. So not as much movement per se as you might read on its face with the 84, but pretty typical.
Oh, so some of them could have been someone who's moving their home but wanted to stay at the school they were in before they moved their home.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Next, we have communications. Ms. Anissa Jimenez.
Dallas, why Anissa's coming up with you and Caitlin could maybe bring Mr. Burgess some catfish.
We have plenty. We're getting close. We're almost out.
Add that as the third action item.
I just wanted to clarify which middle school I should be going to next Friday.
We'll let you know after we get
The Communications Board Report has 1 item of information, and that is the monthly highlights video. And that concludes the communications report unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. We do have a need to go into executive session and we need a motion.
I make a motion that the board will adjourn to executive session to discuss, deliberate upon personnel matters as described on the affidavit to be attached to the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bagley, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
I think it comes